Hello everyone and welcome once again to Brandeo Collection. Today, it's that time again for another collection room tour. There's been some updates since the last time we did one of these videos. There's been a few new figures, there's been a lot of figures that have left the collection since the last time we did one of these, so I thought it was about time that we do another collection room update. Before we jump into things and before we take a look at all the different hot toys and exciting things around this room, if you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that bell notification to be notified when we post one of our new exciting videos. So let's jump on in and go case by case and take a look at the different hot toys and other really exciting pop culture collectibles in our room. Starting off with the first case on the far right side on the main wall, we have our Spider-Man No Way Home kind of display, which I'm finally completed with the brand new acquisition of the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, or also known as the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. I really love how this display came out, and I was super excited to finally have this one completed. It's something I've been looking forward to for a very, very long time, to have the three of them here. And also we have the Willem Dafoe upgraded suit version of the Green Goblin in the back there as well. He's the only of the villains that I purchased out of the No Way Home line. I'm not sure if he's going to stick around. I love the head sculpt and I love the figure itself, but I've been really dwindling down my Spider-Man figures. Even though he is my personal favorite Marvel character, I do want to kind of pinpoint to some of my all-time favorite suits and versions of the character and really make my collection a little bit more focused, even for the characters that I love so much. Right below the top of this DTOF, we have our Rogue One shelf, starting off our Star Wars Hot Toys figures, and this being my personal favorite of the Disney era of Star Wars movies. This shelf hasn't really changed that much since the last time we did a collection room video, but I still really love the way that it looks, and I love the different character representations that we have here on this shelf, and Director Krennic still holds up as one of the best Hot Toys head sculpts that they have ever done, especially within the Star Wars 1/6 scale community. Right below the Rogue One shelf, we have our Empire Strikes Back shelf with the brand new version of Luke from Bespin, which we do have a video on our channel going into that figure a little bit more in depth. Behind him, we have the Empire Strikes Back version of Darth Vader, just one of a couple different Darth Vaders we have in our collection currently, and one of my favorites, but we'll get to my all-time favorite Darth Vader a little bit later. And then we have the Empire Strikes Back Yoda, which I think is still a figure that really holds up, even though this is a figure that's a good amount of years old at this point and from the earlier side of Hot Toys getting into the Star Wars license. But my personal all-time favorite of every Star Wars movie is Empire Strikes Back, so this is a shelf that I absolutely love no matter what. Here we now have our Mandalorian Season 2/Season 3 shelf with a couple different figures on here that have been modified in some ways, especially the figures in the front. We have the Bo-Katan from Season 2 figure by Hot Toys. The thing that's been modified is I did get a custom shoulder pauldron to match her look from Season 3. That was a piece that I bought off of Etsy from a custom seller on there. Then we have the first version of the Beskar Mando there with a separate Darksaber that I purchased off of eBay, and I did do modifications to his undersuit. I took off the armor and the suit, and I did modifications to add an extra level of posability to the figure itself, and it really goes a long way to do these very simple modifications. Of course, if you're planning on doing any type of modifications to any of your figures, really take it slow and easy to make sure you don't cause any damage, but I think modification goes a long way, especially for the Mandalorian figures. Then we have my personal favorite Boba Fett in my collection, which is the repainted armor from Season 2 of Mando. And then we have the Season 2 version of Ahsoka Tano, the Rosario Dawson version of Ahsoka. I know that there's a new Ahsoka figure coming out in relation to her personal TV show. That one actually might be better than this figure. So once that one is officially released, I'll see if I stick around with this version, or maybe I'll upgrade to the newer version of this character. But only time and what final product photos will tell what we do in the future. And here we are at the bottom of the first shelf, which I told you we would get to my favorite Darth Vader in my collection, and that right now is the Obi-Wan Kenobi version of Darth Vader, the battle damage version, where you can see the Anakin Skywalker scarred head sculpt on the inside. I absolutely love this figure, and I've loved it from the moment I took it out of the packaging. We do have a video here on our channel detailing all that comes with this figure and my full thoughts about it, but I love that it has the ability for you to plug in a USB-C, as you can see here, and it does have that light up features. I've connected it to the rest of the lighting of the cases, so now every time I turn them on, Darth Vader's light box turns on as well. So it just adds that extra layer of realism to this figure, and I can't wait until the Obi-Wan Kenobi version of Obi-Wan comes out, because I have that one on pre-order, and he's going to be going side by side right here with Darth Vader on the bottom shelf of this first case. So let's now jump on over to the figures in the middle case on the main wall. Here on the top shelf of the middle case on the main wall, we have the rest of our Hot Toys Spider-Man collection. The one that's right there front and center is the brand new red and blue suit from the end of Spider-Man No Way Home. This one, as of this recording, actually just entered our collection about a week ago. I'm absolutely in love with this figure, and I gotta say a bold statement, I think it is the best Spider-Man figure that Hot Toys has ever made up to this point. I love all the other Spider-Man that I've kept in my collection so far, but this one, I just love the colors, and the Tom Holland head sculpt that it comes with is absolutely mind-blowing. So it's great to finally have this figure as kind of the end of the No Way Home line for Hot Toys. Surrounding him on the right side, we have the homemade suit. This is the version actually from Far From Home, but I thought it would be nice to keep it because that is the first suit that Tom Holland wears in his specific MCU appearances. And then on the left side of the red and blue suit is the Scarlet Spider suit from the Spider-Man PS4 game, which is the only Spider-Man PS4 figure that I've kept in my collection currently. I wanted to do something a little bit more dynamic with all of these different Spider-Man figures. As you've noticed, by dwindling down the number that I have, it allows the more room for these really super dynamic poses, and some figures of course have better suits than others when it comes to holding the poses and damaging or not damaging the suits, but I thought you can't have a Spider-Man figure in your collection without having these extreme dynamic poses, because that's such a major part of this character in the comics and in his other media appearances. So absolutely love this, and let's move on and start working down to the rest of the shelves here on this middle DTOF. Here we have our Revenge of the Sith / Clone Wars shelf. We have the regular original version of Anakin Skywalker by Hot Toys. Hot Toys is working on an artisan version of this figure that unfortunately I was unable to get under pre-order, but who knows what will happen in the future. But I still really enjoy this version, the original version. Then we have Captain Rex right there in the center between Anakin and of course Obi-Wan there, now in his classic Obi-Wan Kenobi stance. I just did a repose of these three figures right before recording this video just to change things up and do that. A lot of these poses that you'll see in these videos, a lot of times I keep them the same thing for months and months or even years. I just keep them in the same thing, and then every now and then change it up a little bit just to kind of change the visual language of the shelves and change up just to make things a little bit more exciting compared to just seeing the same thing every single day. But let's keep moving along down the rest of this case. This is one of our shelves representing the original Star Wars film, the one that started it all, A New Hope, or just Star Wars as it was originally called, and we have mostly the villains on this shelf, which include Grand Moff Tarkin, the original Hot Toys Darth Vader from that original release, and then we have a Sand Trooper and Stormtrooper in the back there. On the side, as a little bit of a bleed over to a shelf we'll get to later, we have R2-D2 and C-3PO. The R2-D2 is one made by Hot Toys, whereas the C-3PO is actually the one that was made by Sideshow Collectibles. Hot Toys has made C-3POs since this initial release, but I still really like the Sideshow Collectibles one, so that's why that one is still here in the collection. Here we have the shelf representing the first season of The Mandalorian with the original Durasteel version of Mando. This figure has also been modified just like the Beskar one we were talking about earlier, where I took out the fat suit underneath and modified the suit so that it allows for significantly better posing on the different joints there, which that's why I still have it in this really awesome pose that I've loved for so long, because it's able to do it now because of those modifications. We have the Grogu Grogu in the pram that came with the Beskar Mando, and then we have IG-88 there on the right side. And of course, front and center, just representing the man behind the mask, we have Brendan Wayne signed on this plaque here with a patch that he actually handed to me the last time I saw him at a convention at New York Comic Con in 2023. And the final shelf on this case is the JazzInc diorama of the Hoth base, one of the best 1/6 scale diorama cases I have ever seen, and I really love this piece. And it's so heavy that it can only exist on the bottom shelf of this Detolf without worrying about it crashing through the glass. But we have the Empire Strikes Back Leia in here in her Hoth outfit, and we also have the Snowspeeder Luke Skywalker here with her. So just another really standout piece within my Hot Toys Star Wars collection. Moving on to the final Detolf, and starting all the way at the top again, we have the last of our Marvel Cinematic Universe figures. Just 3 of my favorite characters other than Spider-Man. We have the Mark 7, which is my favorite Iron Man suit from the first Avengers. This is the die-cast version of that suit. Then we have Captain America from Avengers Endgame, which I think is the best of the Captain Americas that Hot Toys has made to date. And then all the way in the back, it's very hard to see, is the original solo movie version of Doctor Strange there. So I know that there's been an updated and much better looking version of Doctor Strange released since this original figure, but those are 3 of my favorite characters outside of Spider-Man. That's why they've stuck around, whereas the majority of my collection has been focused now on Star Wars. Moving down to the next and pretty crowded shelf, we have our Star Wars prequel shelf, which has a mix of Star Wars Episode 1 along with Episode 2. We have Qui-Gon Jinn. We have the original DX version of Darth Maul, even though I know Hot Toys just recently announced a new and updated version of this character too. We have the Padme Amidala from Attack of the Clones, which just recently entered our collection, and we do have a video on our channel about her as well. Then we have Jango Fett and Count Dooku in the back there. This is, as I mentioned, a pretty tight and contained shelf. I'm starting to think of some ideas on how I can kind of rearrange some things to get it as not as a tight shelf, but we'll see where it goes. But I really do enjoy each of these figures from the prequel collection. Now we have the main shelf that represents the original Star Wars movie A New Hope, with the kind of main characters, the heroes I should say. We have, of course, Han Solo and Chewbacca, the original Hot Toys set, with the original Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. These were some of the first figures that Hot Toys had ever produced once they officially got the Star Wars license. Of course, they had made some random here or there figures before they officially 100% got the license, but once they really were rolling with that license, A New Hope were the first initial figures they released, and this is the whole crew from that initial release, and I'm so happy to still have them in my collection, and they're really prized possessions when it comes to Star Wars in general for me personally. Now we have our Return of the Jedi shelf with only 3 figures here. We have the original release of Emperor Palpatine from Return of the Jedi. We have the original Luke Skywalker from Hot Toys for Return of the Jedi in his Jedi outfit. And then we have the first Boba Fett that Hot Toys ever produced here with the Return of the Jedi Boba Fett. This shelf is waiting for the Endor version of Han Solo, which I currently have on pre-order, which hopefully should be coming out either by the end of this year, 2024, or sometime early in 2025. So once that gets added to the shelf, I think that will add a little bit more dynamic nature to it compared to just having these 3 simple figures here on the shelf currently. And finally, to wrap things up in our Star Wars Hot Toys collection, we do have our sequel trilogy shelf. We just have 1 shelf left of sequel trilogy figures. I pinpointed it down to my favorite of the 3 movies, and that for me still is The Force Awakens. So those are the figures I wanted to keep. And of course, I have here the original Rey, Kylo Ren, Finn, and a First Order Stormtrooper, along with BB-8 hanging out there in the front. The BB-8 actually is from the Last Jedi line, because I didn't get BB-8 with the original Rey release, but he still looks great because he looks the same across all 3 of the sequel movies, so he kind of fits in right with the rest of the Force Awakens crew. Moving over to the final DTOF in our collection room, all the way at the top we have the Ed 209 figure from Robocop. This is the 2.0 version of this figure, and I've mentioned in previous collection videos that because I've owned this figure for almost 10 years now, it was back in 2014 I originally purchased it, it is cracking on the rubber dome, and it's just kind of, that's the way it's going. After almost 10 years of it being in the collection, even with a climate controlled room and all these other factors, it just kind of goes that way with those types of materials, but he's still a really good and standout piece within the Hot Toys collection. Moving down to our Johnny Depp shelf, it's much smaller since the last time we did a collection room tour. Now we just have 3 figures here, which include the Jack Sparrow figure from On Stranger Tides. I do have the Artisan Jack Sparrow on order, so I'm really excited about that one once it is officially released. I also have the Sweeney Todd figure here. And in the back there is Ichabod Crane from the Tim Burton Sleepy Hollow film. So the one that used to be here is Grindelwald from Fantastic Beasts, but once again, I want to really pinpoint and focus my collection to the characters I really enjoy the most. And since Johnny Depp is my favorite actor, I wanted to focus on the characters that I enjoy the most from him personally, which are the 3 figures that are still remaining in the collection. Here are some other miscellaneous leftover Hot Toys figures and non-Hot Toys, for one of them at least. Here on this shelf, we have the die-cast from 2014 Robocop figure. It goes hand in hand with the Ed 209 that I was showing you earlier. Then we have the 10th Doctor. This one is actually from a company called Big Chief Studios, which they actually unfortunately went out of business last year. And then in the back there, we have the original 300 figure King Leonidas from Hot Toys. He was actually the first Hot Toys that started my entire collection. The reason why he's still here is that even though he doesn't fit in, is because he's the one that started this entire collection. So that's why he is still here in the DTOF. And then in the back there, we have the T800 battle damaged version from Hot Toys. This is just one of my favorite figures from one of my all-time favorite movies, which Terminator 2, I think, is one of the movies that made me fall in love with the world of movie making and just movies in general. So that's why we have a kind of a hodgepodge miscellaneous shelf here, but they're all different reasons why they're still here, because they do have a special connection to me personally. Rounding things out with the final 2 shelves with our horror movie figures. Starting off here with the Hot Toys Pennywise from It Chapter 2, which is a very, very great figure. I love the base that it comes with the multiple heads. I know there is the really super deluxe and intricate in-art version, which is another company that produced this character, but I really enjoy having the Hot Toys version in my collection. And then next to him is the Trick or Treat Studios version of Sam from the movie Trick or Treat, which is one of my all-time favorite Halloween movies. So they actually do look really great standing next to each other because their bases do kind of match. It gives you that suburban Halloween horror movie feel, so I thought they were great standing next to each other here on this shelf. Then we come to the final shelf of all of our DTOF cases, which is the last of our horror movie figures. We have Ghostface right there front and center of the shelf, kind of raised a little bit there on a platform. We have the Nun from the Conjuring movies, which is from a studio called QMX, which I actually think this is a great looking figure, even though it's not Sideshow Collectibles, it's not Hot Toys, I still think it's a really great quality figure. Then we have the Sideshow Collectibles Freddy Krueger there, and we have the Trick or Treat Studios Michael Myers in the back left corner, and in the back right corner is a custom figure that I made about 10 years ago of Jason Voorhees. So really amateur, but just me messing around with different leftover costumes and body parts from other Sideshow Hot Toys characters to make my own version of Jason that's not based on any specific movie or anything like that, but just to have my own kind of version to play with there. On the opposite end of the room across from the DTOF cases, I have my Spider-Man comic books displayed there on the wall. We have a couple different graded books. We have some more modern books in the regular frames there. The only one that's not Spider-Man, I do have a comic book signed by Ben Affleck up in the top left corner, but other than that, it's all of some of my all-time favorite Spider-Man books that are in my collection, and especially the ones that are graded. Those are the youngest or the lowest number number Amazing Spider-Mans I have. It goes all the way down to number 5, which is that first appearance of Doctor Doom with Spider-Man all the way on the top in the middle. So this is just a shelf I really, really love. And then right below that is some other Hot Toys figures. We have the Amazing Spider-Man comic book version that was released by Hot Toys last year. This is a figure that was an exclusive. I did order it directly from Hong Kong because there was only 400 pieces made based on the way that I purchased it. I purchased it, like I said, straight from Hong Kong from a company called Pop Collectibles, and there were only 400 of them made. I believe there was only maybe 1,000 or so made all across the world, but that is a piece I love because it is the comic book version of the character outside of just the movie versions I already own. And then next to him is my Marty McFly figure from the Back to the Future films, this one specifically from the first Back to the Future. And the reason why this figure is still in the collection is because not only do I love Back to the Future, but I got the figure box signed by the entire cast of the original movie, which includes Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Leah Thompson, Tom Wilson, and a bunch of other people on here. The only person I don't have is Crispin Glover because he doesn't sign. He has a weird relationship with the movies, but other than that, we have the main cast there, and that's the reason why this is front and center in a nice place where people can see it and have it as a great talking point and centerpiece of my Hot Toys collection. Moving back to the opposite wall again, right next to the Detolf cases, I have some of my Star Wars autographs displayed up on the wall. These are all actually scans and copies of the original signed pieces that I do have safe and sound within Itoya binders in a safe location. That way I don't have to worry about these autograph pieces getting ruined by being up on the wall, especially since there is 2 windows right across from those autograph pieces that do have pretty good blinds that cover those windows, but just in case, I don't want to take any chances on some of my prized Star Wars autographs. So these are copies, but they still look really, really great here on the wall above the Star Wars arcade cabinet and next to the Detolf cases. Continuing to move through the room, on the other side of the door, we have my Disneyland theme park memorabilia. This is just a small amount of my theme park memorabilia that I collect on top of all the other things I collect with comic books and Hot Toys and autographs. I really, really focus on vintage memorabilia from Disneyland, from the opening in 1955 all the way up to some interesting things that come out today. So some of my highlights here include original theme park maps and lunch boxes and pennants, which are flags and pins and patches, and some of the other important things from a lot of the times when my family and I have gone on these trips to Disneyland and Disney World. A lot of those items kind of span across the shelves that are on this side of the room. So a lot of sentimental value and a lot about my history and my interest in the history of Disney theme parks all across the United States and even the world. As we wrap things up here in our collection room, I'm just going to move through the rest of our remaining Star Wars memorabilia that I have out displayed. We have our original VHS set, the one that actually got me into the world of Star Wars, that my dad introduced me to the movies with this VHS set. We have another VHS that's signed by the director of Empire Strikes Back, Irvin Kershner, and surrounding around those VHSs are some of the original vintage Kenner action figures. I do have some loose ones, and I also have a couple figures that here have been graded and encapsulized to be protected forever. As we move along, there actually is one other Hot Toys figure over here. It is the Last Jedi Kylo Ren, and the base is signed by Adam Driver. So that's another reason why this is still in the collection. As we're moving along, we have photos signed by Pedro Pascal, Brendan Wayne, and Lateef Crowder. We have some of the lightsabers from Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, along with a bunch of other memorabilia I picked up in a couple of my different visits over the years to Galaxy's Edge, with Coca-Cola bottles and other little pieces of memorabilia that go along with the lightsabers, including the Kyber crystal, some patches, and other pieces from there. And then, of course, one of my prized possessions in my entire collection across all the things that I collect is my 11x14 sketch by Dave Filoni. It's signed by him as well, of Ahsoka Tano. This is just a main, I would say, centerpiece of my collection. It's the first thing you see as soon as you open the door to my office, because I wanted it to be front and center because I love it so much. And I think out of everything that's in this room, it's one of the last things that would go in an absolute desperate nature. It would take absolute desperation for it to be removed out of my collection. So I really love the way that this looks, this whole display, and how it pulls together all of the different Star Wars and other forms of memorabilia we have all here in our collection room. Thank you so much for joining us on this tour through our current collection room. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like it, subscribe to our channel, and hit that bell notification so that way you're notified every time we post one of our exciting videos. Also, share this video with anybody else who might be interested in all things pop culture memorabilia. We talk about hot toys, autographs, comic books, and much more across our channel, so keep an eye out for whenever new and exciting content comes to our channel. Thank you once again, and as always, keep on collecting.